Alok Sharma, the president of the COP26, was on a two-day visit to India. This marked his third visit to India. Speaking exclusively to our principal diplomatic correspondent Sidhant Sibal, Alok Sharma elaborates on various issues, from the impact of climate change in the UK to the tussle between Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss in the upcoming elections to choose the next United Kingdom Prime Minister. Listen in.
You are from your Indian origin. There, Rishi Sunak is making headlines. There, Preeti Patel, Sajid Javid. How do you see this diverse set of people now at the top echelons of the British politics?
Well, I think it tells you a lot about the UK and what kind of country the United Kingdom is. It is a multiracial, multicultural country. And at the end of the day, I think it's great that people, because of their talent, are able to move on. Of course, we have a contest at the moment to be our next Prime Minister. And both candidates, Rishi Sunak as well as Liz, they are really good people. They're really committed. But I think the fact that in this race, we had so many people, we had women, we had people from the ethnic minority communities standing and putting themselves forward for leadership of our country, I think is a fantastic thing. And I think it's a really great advert for the kind of country the United Kingdom is.
And who do you place your bets on, Rishi Sunak or Liz Truss?
I'm not a betting person. What I can tell you is both of them are incredibly talented colleagues, and I think we'll be in very good hands, whoever wins. Now, one of the things that I have been very keen to emphasize is that whoever leads our country shows leadership on the issue of climate as well. Prime Minister Johnson has been absolutely brilliant on this issue of climate change, on the issue of tackling biodiversity loss. He's shown real leadership in this. And what I want to make sure is that whoever ends up being our next Prime Minister shows that same commitment to this issue. As a result of COP26, the UK has shown international leadership. We've shown domestic leadership. And it's absolutely vitally important that whoever leads, whoever is the next Prime Minister, continues with this commitment.
So at the opening statement at the COP26, you mentioned a specific line which made international news. That was lights are flashing red at the climate dashboards. It's 8 months, but do you see any kind of work on the ground? Because as someone told me that it's just words on the paper. I mean, do you see countries actually working? Because it looks like while everyone is talking about climate change, nobody is delivering. We saw the heat wave, we saw the flooding across the world.
So what I said in Glasgow was that because of the commitments that were made, we were being able to say with credibility we kept 1.5 alive, the prospect of limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees. But I also said that the pulse of 1.5 is weak. And the only way we strengthen that is to ensure that countries deliver on the commitments that they've made. Now, one of the big commitments that we got out of Glasgow was for every country to look again at their 2030 emission reduction target. That's been one of the major themes that I've been discussing with countries around the world. We've had some big economies that have come forward to say that they will revise their 2030 emission reduction target. G20 countries particularly have been making those commitments, but we need everyone to step up to the plate. And I think the other sort of side of this is on finance. I think it's really important that developed countries step up and support developing nations with finance. I don't think we can ever ask developing nations to curb their growth. We need to make sure that we support them with clean growth, and that's one of the things that we are doing through energy transition partnerships.
Heatwave, we have seen the images which are truly shocking for British and of course the world as well. What do you think is the reason? Do you think that it's solely the climate change responsible for the increase in temperatures in United Kingdom and of course Europe as well?
Well, I don't think you can put individual days. You can't say that is directly entirely to do with climate change, but we can see the climate is changing. We know that the science is telling us that we're already at anywhere between 1.1 and 1.2 degrees above pre-industrial levels in terms of temperature. And you see the impact on that. It's not evenly spread. Yes, absolutely. In the UK, we have hit record levels of temperature over 40 degrees. And I can tell you, it was really pretty unbearable for lots of people. We also, of course, had fires breaking out, wildfires in the United Kingdom. But of course, here in India, you've also gone over the last few weeks through terrible heat waves. And I can't start to imagine what it is like for the very many people across the world who are facing extreme heat for a large part of the time. You know, I had an opportunity today to go and meet some people in some of the communities who are working outside, working in these conditions. And it is exactly why we need to make sure that we address this issue, because it is impacting many millions of lives across the world.
We have seen the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Do you think the consensus on climate change will not be able to deliver, given the fact that this development has happened, and perhaps countries are now looking for new ways of getting energy, especially coal?
Yes, so I think we, of course, have seen this terrible and illegal invasion of Ukraine by Russia, and that, of course, has sparked lots of other issues as well, in terms of energy security, in terms of inflation rising, debt levels rising across the world, food security issues. All of that is in play. And of course, all world leaders need to deal with these immediate issues right now. But of course, you know, as governments and as world leaders, you need to be able to do more than one thing at a time. And we know that the chronic threat of climate change is getting worse. We see this in the science. We see it with our own eyes. Right? We talked about what's happened in the UK. You see what's happening here in India, across Europe, across Australia and Americas as well. And therefore, it's vitally important that we continue to act on this issue of climate change. And you talked about the impact of the invasion of Ukraine. What you are seeing is many countries looking to wean themselves off Russian hydrocarbons. And I think what they've understood is that if you rely on fossil fuels, particularly those controlled by a hostile actor, it makes you very vulnerable. And so at the same time as countries are trying to meet their immediate energy needs as they wean themselves off Russian hydrocarbons, they're also making a very clear commitment to accelerate the amount of clean energy that they have, the homegrown clean energy. You're seeing those commitments across Europe. In the UK, we have published our own energy security strategy. It's about doing a lot more in terms of solar, in terms of wind power, nuclear, hydrogen. And of course, here in India, the Prime Minister made a really great commitment at COP26 to have 500 gigawatts of renewable energy by 2030. I mean, that is a big, big commitment, and it's a bold commitment that Prime Minister Modi made, and that's been part of my discussion over the last 2 days as well, is the progress that India is making on the path to that target.
But how do you see Europe being okay with the use of coal now, given given the fact that the Russians have invaded Ukraine, and because of the energy crisis, it looks like Europe is fine with using of coal? I'm saying this because last year we saw coal was the biggest issue, the impact on the coal at the climate change summit in Glasgow.
Well, coal was one of the issues. But as I said, I think what every country is looking to do is to ensure that they're able to keep the lights on, they're able to heat people's homes, to keep the factories and offices running. And that every country, every government needs to do that. But what I am saying to governments across Europe, indeed across the world when I talk to them, is that what that should allow you to do is to have the space to accelerate in terms of clean energy growth, in terms of renewables. In the United Kingdom, as an example, we've said that by 2035, 100% of our electricity will come from clean energy sources. And you're seeing those commitments being made by other countries as well.